When we introduced objects, we talked about them as these folders that could contain variables. The variables that live inside of these folders are known as attributes. To help us understand attributes better, let's look at an example. Here in the Python tutor, I have called a constructor to create a point3 object, that point3 object being this folder that is off to the right. I've assigned this object to the variable p. However, p is not an attribute. P contains the name of the folder. It references the folder. The attributes are only these variables that live inside of the folder, the three coordinates x, y, and z. Okay, they look a little strange, but for the most part, I can use these attribute variables in the same way that I use a normal variable. What's different is the way in which I access them. Let's go over to the terminal here. I'm going to make a point3 object and assign it to the variable p. If I want to access an attribute, I first give the variable that contains the name of the folder, in this case p, then a period, and then the attribute that I want to access, in this case x. As I can see, the x attribute is 1. If I change this, the y attribute is 2.0. In many ways, this is the same as when we accessed variables inside of a module. If I imported math, if I wanted to access pi, I typed math.pi. In both cases, the period or the dot means inside of. Pi lives inside of the module math. X is an attribute that lives inside of the folder that is referenced by p. And just like module variables, I can pretty much use these in any expression that I want at all. Oh, but now this is where it gets interesting. I can actually assign new values to attributes, changing them. To do that, I just write it in an assignment statement. And it's pretty much a normal assignment statement, but what's on the left varies a little bit. I'm going to take p because that contains the name of the folder, but I'm not done yet. I type a period and an x because I'm telling Python that I want to change this attribute x. And now it's a normal assignment statement, 4.0. If I look at the object, I notice, I've changed the x attribute. Let's make this a little clearer in the Python tutor. You'll notice that I have an assignment statement here. We're going to step forward, look very closely at the folder here. You'll notice that we reach into the folder and we change its value to 4.0. Okay, all right, so that makes sense. I'm no longer changing these normal variables, but I'm reaching into the folders and changing them. It all makes sense. Except that this has a very interesting ramification. Let's do one more thing in the terminal. I'm going to make a new variable called q, and I'm going to assign it to p. So now both p and q are objects. I'm going to go to p, and I'm going to change its x attribute to 5.6. And now I'm going to go to q, and I'm going to change its x attribute to 7.4. Pretty straightforward. Here's the question. What do you think the x attribute of p is right now? All right. Pause the video, think about it for a second, and come back when you're ready. Okay, have you thought about it? Because the answer is 7.4. Now, for some of you, this might be a surprise, because you might look at this and go, wait a minute, you assigned the x attribute of p to be 5.6. It was only q's x attribute that got 7.4. Why did p change? Well, let's look at the Python tutor to see exactly what's going on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to visualize. I'm going to create a new object, p. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign q to be p. Remember what this does. This does not create a new folder. Instead, it copies the name of the folder from p into q. So both p and q are referencing the same folder. So now watch what happens when we do this assignment statement. When we say p.x is equal to 5.6, Python says, okay, well, p is referencing this folder, so I'm going to go inside of this folder and change its value to 5.6. And now I say q.x is equal to 7.4. So I'm now going to go to the folder referenced by q, the same folder, and change its value to 7.4. Oh boy, okay, so now we have something interesting because we have this case where we have two different variables, but making a change to one affects the other. And this was never the case before. As you can see, this is one of the reasons why visualization of objects is so important in this course.